Many people learning data analytics right now are scared of SQL. Some people even avoid it completely because they've heard it is very difficult. They will happily spend weeks learning Excel or Power BI, but the moment they hear words like joins, subqueries, or window functions, they start thinking maybe data analytics is not for me. And I get it. SQL can look intimidating when you are first starting out. There are hundreds of commands, countless tutorials, and so many people telling you different things to learn. It is easy to feel overwhelmed. But the truth is, SQL is not as difficult as people make it seem. Most people struggle with SQL because they are trying to learn everything at once and not because it is very difficult. If I had to start learning SQL from scratch today, I wouldn't watch 100 random tutorials. I would not even memorize every SQL command, and I would not spend months learning advanced topics before mastering the basics. But instead, I would follow a simple roadmap. A roadmap that can help me to focus on the skills that actually matter. And in this video, I will show you exactly how I would learn SQL if I were starting all over again. So let's get started. Before writing a single query, I would understand what SQL actually does. Many people think SQL is a programming language. It is not. It is simply the language that we use to communicate with database. So I would learn what is database even before I start talking about it. The first thing I advise people, whichever language you're trying to learn, whichever tool you are going to learn, it is very important that you understand the basics, what that thing really is, what it does, before you start thinking of learning the formulas. And so, like I said, SQL is simply the language that we use to communicate with the database. And so I would learn what is a database, what is a table, what are rows, what are columns, what is a primary key, what is a foreign key, because once you understand how data is stored, writing queries becomes much easier for you. Now, the next thing I would learn is to learn how to retrieve data. I would start writing queries. I would master select, from, distinct, top or limit, aliases like as, and these are the foundation of almost everything you would learn. Now, the next thing I would learn is how to filter data, and this is where SQL becomes very useful. I would learn where, comparison operators, and, or, not, between, in, like, is null. These allow you to answer business questions like show me customers in Lagos, show me customers with balances above 100,000, show me transactions from this month. Now, the next thing I would learn is to learn how to sort and limit results. I would learn how to use order by, ASC, which is for ascending order, DESC, which is for descending order, top, limit, and offset. Because businesses rarely want all the data. They want to see top customers, they want to see the highest sales, they want to see the latest transactions. Now, the fifth thing I would learn is aggregate functions. Now we are getting into analysis. I would master counts, sum, average, minimum, which is MIN. I would master MAX, and these are functions that you would constantly use. Now, the next thing I would learn would be group by and having, and this is where you begin to answer business questions like how many customers do we have in each state, which branch generated the most revenue, which product sold the most. Group by is one of the most important SQL concepts for analysis. The next thing I would learn would be joins. Many beginners rush straight into learning joins. I would wait until I understand everything before I learn join. I would learn how to use inner join, left join, right join, full outer join, because real business data lives in different tables. And this was what I highlighted in the other video I did on Excel, right? Businesses data are not stored in one place, they are stored in different places. We have customer table, transactions table, we could have product table, branches table. Joins would allow you to connect them, and that is also what lookup functions would do for you. Now, the next thing I would learn is how to use case statements. Case makes your report much more useful. For example, instead of showing balances, you can classify your customers into high value customers, medium value customers, low value customers, and it is one of the simplest ways to add business logic to your queries. The next thing I would learn is subqueries and CTEs. Once you are comfortable writing queries, I would move into subqueries, common table expressions. These make complex SQL much easier to organize and read. Now, the next thing I would learn is Windows functions, and this is where SQL becomes very exciting. I would learn row underscore number, rank, dense rank, lag, lead, sum over, average over, and these are functions that help answer advanced business questions without complicated queries. Now, the next thing I would do is to practice with real data set. I would not spend all my time using tiny practice tables. I would download real data set from different sources like Aggregate. For example, you can use AdventureWorks, Northwind, Chinook database, or data set from Kaggle, like I said. Then I would pretend I worked for a company. I would ask business questions. I would write queries. I would solve problems, and that is where real learning really happens. Now, the next thing I would do is to build SQL projects, and this is where most people skip. They learn all these things and they don't build projects. Don't just solve coding exercises that you see on these platforms. Build projects. For example, we have customer analysis, sales analysis, banking dashboard, employee performance analysis, hospital analytics, retail sales analysis. Project makes your SQL skills more visible than not doing anything at all. If I had to start all over again, there are several mistakes I would avoid. I wouldn't memorize SQL syntax. I would understand what each command does. I wouldn't jump into window functions before mastering select, where, group by, and joins. I would not copy solutions without understanding them. Many people would go online, check solutions that people had already done without thinking on their own, without understanding them. So these are the things I would not do. I would not also spend months watching tutorials without writing queries every day. And I won't learn SQL in isolation. I would connect it to solving business problems, because companies will not hire people that know how to use Excel, but they would only hire people that can solve problems with Excel. Now, I want you to remember this. I don't want you to be memorizing commands. Understand why you are using them. Practice doing them. If you don't practice, these functions will not stick. It happens to the best of us. And this is one scenario I paint many times. I tell people that if you are learning how to use a new language like Spanish, if you don't speak to people using that Spanish that you are learning, it will not stick. So if you expect SQL to jump on you all of a sudden without practicing it, without using those things that you are learning, you will not learn it, you will not know it. That's why many people will be like, I learned this thing last week, it has still not stuck. It will not stick. But by the time you practice again and again, even if you practice once, it will still may not stick. So you need to keep repeating your practice again and again. Now, I would like to hear from you. Which part of SQL do you struggle with the most? And if you would like me to create a free SQL learning roadmap checklist that you can follow step by step, simply comment SQL below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with somebody who is learning SQL. I'll see you in the next video.